records, which provide a detailed account of virtually every animal seen, are some of the most comprehensive on Earth.
So what years?
Here were hard numbers that helped explain the scarcity of wildlife.
I have 5 lines.
5 lines.
The story they told was staggering. Elephants had declined by 70%. Hippos had dropped by 50%. But perhaps most alarming of all was the decline of large predators. The lion population was down 80%.
Even for those large carnivores that are still here but are diminished in number, we worry whether these populations are what we would call viable. And that is, are there enough individuals left in the population to really keep it going into the future?
Oh, man.
So we've called them the Walking Dead. We've called them Ghana's ghosts.
But I'm seeing a huge number of baboons.
Brashear suspects that the decrease of lethal predators is what triggered a dramatic increase in baboon numbers.
Exactly.
Free from predation, the baboons' population not only shot up, they also felt safe enough to hunt at night, and over time became more aggressive. While the records help to explain the rise of the baboons, what had happened to all the other wildlife? Animals in a national park don't simply disappear, so where did they go?
They move.
Brashear believes that clues to this mystery can be found on the side of the road.
Oh, man.
There's been much speculation about bushmeat hunting being the primary cause of wildlife declines in many protected areas.
Generally, one would consider bushmeat as any wild animal meat.
Wow.
So long as the animal is not
You
a
are so
domesticated
proud,
animal.
man. Look at that. What a man.
This meat, whether smoked,
Oh,
boiled, fried, whatever, we consider it as bushmeat. Bushmeat plays a tremendous role in the life of Ghanaians. Protein-wise, it's a
Oh,
very
my
important
God.
source
Fat.
of food.
Demand for bushmeat from Ghana's exploding population triggers daily battles. On one side are the hunters, struggling in what can be an ungenerous land. On the other, the rangers, who try to ensure that the animals in the parks survive the growing human threat.
fucking all that rifle.
The Wildlife Division chronicles these encounters, and they've found that hunting is so intense, it's a major driver of animal declines. But the records raise another question.
So when we look at the long-term trends, we see dramatic decreases in wildlife populations associated with general increases in hunting activity in parks. But when you look at a smaller time period, if you look at these trends month by month, what we see is a huge amount of variation. So for example, intensity of hunting from one month might be very different from the month that follows. And this raised a whole new set of questions about why hunting may fluctuate dramatically from month to month or year to year. What's happening in communities that's affecting the behavior of hunters.
Brashares would find the answer to this question quite by accident, and far from the bush of Ghana. Back in North America, Brashares attends a lecture by the former Vice President of Ghana, John Atta Mills. During his lecture, Atta Mills points out that fish loom large in the Ghanaian economy. Fish are also a staple of the Ghanaian diet. So, a scarcity of fish can reverberate throughout the society.
So as he was talking about how important fish were to the system, my brain, the little rat started to run on its treadmill. And I wonder whether or not these dramatic variations in fish supply that Professor Atta Mills is talking about might explain or might have something to do with the variation that I see in hunting intensity.
Inspired by Atta Mills, Brashares pores over reams of statistics. One data set provides a 30-year account of fish supplies. Another paints a 30-year picture of wildlife abundance in Ghana's parks.
When you take that year-to-year data on fish supply in Ghana, and you plot that on your
direct
graph,
correlation.
you bring over the year-to-year changes in wildlife populations in Ghana, you see the two match up almost perfectly. What that means, of course, is that when you have a year with a good supply of fish, wildlife actually shows an increase. When you have those years when there's a low point in fish supply, you tend to see these dramatic declines, great declines in wildlife numbers. I was so amazed that there was a strong relationship between fish supply and bushmeat hunting. I went next door to the fisheries center. I grabbed a friend and I said, "Fish, it's all about fish. I can't believe it, but it's all about fish." So in order to really try and understand whether or not supply of fish was in fact driving hunting of wildlife, I needed to get into local markets. We ended up going to 16 rural markets. And over a period of almost 3 years, we went each week to these markets during market day. We recorded the amount of fish that were available and that were sold, and we recorded the prices. We also recorded the amount of bushmeat that was available and was sold. What we found was an amazingly direct relationship that seemed to be overwhelmingly driven by fish supply. So that when fish were in good supply, they tended to be cheap, and people bought huge amounts of fish with relatively small demand for bushmeat. When fish became more scarce, it became more expensive. When people overwhelmingly turned towards bushmeat, which of course probably fueled more hunting because there was that demand.
Oh, man. Yeah, fuck you, son of a bitch.
Brashares suspects that the relationship between fishing and the slaughter of wildlife is not confined to Ghana's borders. He thinks this link is a key factor driving the disappearance of wildlife throughout coastal Africa. With the stakes so high, what can be done?